Have you ever experienced that phenomenon when you are building a PC or tinkering with a PC or repairing a PC where things have gone just sideways enough that any and all pretense of organization is just out the window? I know that everybody's got different tidiness standards. I'm a bit on the extreme end of wanting an organized desk and stuff like that. But do you know what I mean? Like, things devolve so far into just a gigantic explosion of every cable and screwdriver and case fan you can think of splayed across one or more rooms.
You have literally described the entirety of my life.
That's why I mentioned, some people might not consider this such a problem.
So, look, there's a point in every build where you're like, fuck it, I just want to be done. And then, and that's when you jam all the cables up onto the backside and you just shove the door closed. It's actually kind of my one complaint with this Fractal Design Meshify case that I built my new PC in is it uses contact. There's not screws holding the backside on. It's just like snap-on things. So you actually it enforces. It's both a good thing and a bad thing. It enforces a backside cable tidiness that like it doesn't let you hide your crimes as it were. So yeah, Brad, what? I mean, you haven't built the new PC yet, so I'm curious.
This is just a simple NVMe drive swap in my NAS has turned into like a 3-day odyssey of
simple.
You can't see it because this camera's pointed at the ceiling, but this room is a complete disaster.
Brad, is the NAS up or down?
The NAS is fine. It's mostly cooling stuff that
cooling is always the problem, it turns out.
I'm never buying micro ATX again. I don't think it matters because they're barely making micro ATX anymore. Like, that standard just seems like it's on the way out, but I never again will I attempt a compact build of any kind.
Wow. You're just going full tower from here on out.
I'm getting the biggest cases I can possibly fit into my living space from now on.
Let me suggest an alternative. What about a 4U rack?
Dude, what about a 42U rack in which a 4U case can sit along with a bunch of other stuff? I am with you on that. One of the M.2 sockets on this MATX board is so close to the PCI Express slot underneath it that I could not fit the SSD into the socket because the retaining latch on the PCI Express slot was blocking that. I had to take a screwdriver and wedge it into the slot and pop the latch out to get the SSD in.
Oh, I don't like that. That feels bad. That feels like a design flaw.
Yeah, that was a pain in the ass, but whatever, it worked fine. Anyway, I got the whole thing back together. The fan controller turned out to have died.
In the motherboard?
No, it's an external. It's just a little it plugs into Molex and then like takes 3.
And then you have like 3 4-pin fan headers.
Yeah, they're 3-pin, but yeah, it's just a little.
Got it.
What is it? Resistive.
Does it have a physical knob on it, or is it software controlled?
It's a knob. You just turn a knob and it changes impedance or resistance or whatever anyway, that thing died. So the case fans weren't working. So I managed to get all of the fan headers on the board populated. And then it turned out one of those case fans was just dead anyway. For who knows how long that's been going on.
So it's possible that your dead case fan made your fan controller not work, actually.
Maybe. Well, so I don't know what the part is. It's their tiny little exposed PCB it's mounted on a PCI bracket.
Yeah.
The knob points outside the case.
Oh, that's interesting. It's not on the front. Okay.
And the PCB sticks off the back of the bracket. I don't know what this part was. In fact, I think it's in the living room right now, but I could show it to you. Something soldered to the little PCB on that fan controller. If I bent it a certain way, the fans would come back on. And then letting off of it, they would go off again.
Oh, like a resistor or capacitor, so like something round? Or
yeah, no, it's like rectangular with a hole in the middle.
Oh, that's a MOSFET probably.
Okay, sure.
So MOSFET's like a big switch, essentially.
So anyway, I kind of bent it into position and the fans mostly seemed reliable, but I'm not going to count on that.
Yeah, why don't you just plug the fans into the motherboard because they run full speed?
It's complicated. Like 2 of the headers, one of them is an AIO header that you can't adjust. It runs at full speed all the time. The other one is the CPU opt header, which is basically
usually bound to something else.
It's bound to the CPU fan. So that case fan would just oscillate along with the CPU fan, which isn't really what you want. It's fine. It turns out, thank you, Noctua, I've got a bunch of Y splitters for fan headers. So I've got 2 nice new Noctua case fans on the way.
There you go.
And it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Use a little more Noctua in our lives.
Yes, for sure. It's just that whole thing of like, this'll take 30 minutes to swap this drive out. Oh, by 30 minutes, I meant 3 days.
Yeah, there's nothing. Look, if you, especially here's the thing. There's a rule about this. The nicer your wiring job and your setup in general, like your cooling, whether how your pipes are routed, all that stuff, the nicer job you've done with that, the more time it's going to take to replace any component in that machine. Mm-hmm. Right. Because like if I want to get into my machine now, I have to unwire a bunch of fans and do a bunch of stuff because they're all hooked up in really specific ways. And it's a, like just assume it's going to take a few hours.
Yes. Yes. It's tempting to say that good organization, good tidiness is a gift that you give to your future self. But nope. Sometimes it backfires.
It's punishment. It's a way to make future you suffer. Sorry, Brad. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
Brad, I know it's a cliche to talk about localized weather on a worldwide podcast, but I learned a new word this week.
Oh, hit me.
Grapple.
I'm sorry.
Grapple.
Whoa.
It's a German word. It means...
Grappel?
Graupel. It is it's called soft hail or hominy snow, and it's precipitation that forms when super cold water droplets in the air are collected and freeze on falling snowflakes, forming 2 to 5 millimeter balls of crisp, opaque rime. It's distinct from hail and ice pellets in that it often forms in cumulonimbus and thunderstorm clouds and falls in winter storms.
Oh, here it is. Graupel.
Graupel.
Yes,
is what Google said the American pronunciation is Graupel.
Okay, sure.
And it kind of yelled it at me. So here we go.
Hominy snow. Man, I like hominy.
Hominy.
Dude, what if actual hominy fell from the sky? That would be pretty cool.
It's funny. There's like a couple of grains. Hominy, barley. Mm-hmm. And then this is not a grain, but like what are the white tubers? They're not turnips. The other ones, parsnips. These are all things my parents hated apparently as children because their parents must have boiled them when they prepared them for them. Mm-hmm. And when I've had them as an adult, I'm like, these are delicious. Why do we not eat more of these? Why do I not have barley cereal in my life as a regular thing? Yeah. Anyway. So we've had I've lived here for 23 years now. I've seen snow once during that time period. I've seen hail once prior to last week. During the last week, we've had this grapple stuff happen every day. Pretty much it's rained. And had a little bit of hail one day, too, which was exciting.
The FedEx guy showed up right in the middle of that hail with a package for me, and he seemed stoked to be out there in that.
Yeah, like legitimately, it's hard to tell here because sometimes people are excited by novelty weather in San Francisco.
He was grinning and bearing it. Oh,
that sucks. At least he delivered the package. I've had FedEx has been not the most reliable for me lately. So yeah, it's weird weather here in San Francisco. They got 10 feet of snow or 10 meters of snow. I can't remember. They're up to like 500 centimeters of snow, 500 inches of snow. In Tahoe.
Oh, now. Tahoe, of course. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of snow.
I think that's 40 feet of snow, but I'm not sure. Like literally 40 feet of snow.
Strange times around here.
Yeah, I saw a picture of a ski lift that they had to dig out the poles so that the ski lift would operate the other day.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, wow, that seems bad. But anyway, we're not going to talk about dark clouds today.
We're nice and cozy inside our warm houses playing
speak for yourself
games. No, we're not.
Well, it's not just mobile games. It's all.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Like this this is everywhere. This stuff is literally everywhere. We're going to talk about dark patterns this week.
Yes. I think the sort of classical origin a decade plus ago, though, like that's it was also Facebook games. It wasn't just phone games, but it was that kind of small scale free to play is the first place I saw this stuff originate.
I think free to play is where it was weaponized, but I think I saw these things originate on the early web. Like honestly, like if you think about, so a dark pattern for people who don't like, well, okay, we're talking about these for two reasons. One is it's an interesting topic and we hadn't thought about talking about stuff like this on the show before. But the other is that they're everywhere and merely knowing that they exist removes a lot of their power for people.
Yes,
so,
for sure.
Like by talking about this stuff, we're making you, the listener, less susceptible to these dark patterns, and hopefully you can make informed decisions about your life.
Yeah. Also, I feel like I could be wrong. At least for me, the term dark pattern only came into common usage maybe in the last year or two, or that's when I encountered it. But
people have been talking about dark patterns on the web for 15 years at this point.
But with that name though, what I was going to say is like when you read through these various phenomena, you realize like, oh yes, okay, yes, these have a lot of these I have seen for a very long time.
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff came out of like cognitive science, which is like if psychology is the abstract idea of how brains work, cognitive science is how brains react to certain specific stimuli. It's like the applied science version of psychology in a lot of ways.
Theory versus exploitative practice.
Well, or I mean, look, applied sciences can be good or bad. Nuclear power, nuclear bombs, same science, just different application.
Truly amoral. It's all about how you use it.
Yeah. But the first place I heard about this was on the web. And if you recall, like, I don't know, like late in the early 2000s, like 2007, 2008, 2005, when you could still make good money with advertising on the web, there were a lot of weird dark patterns around both e-commerce and like advertising. And so people know a dark pattern is a deceitful design choice added to a site or product that causes a negative experience for the user, but a positive experience for the developer. Often dark patterns are used to mislead users to bait them into doing things that they might not otherwise do. This is a definition. I read that off of our notes.
Okay. Should we credit that definition?
That is a definition that was assembled from 4 or 5 different websites that I read today.
Okay. So, that's your paraphrase.
That is my paraphrasation of about 15 paragraphs of text.
Also, probably goes without saying, generally that positive experience for the developer is getting paid.
Not always, but often, yeah. Maybe the getting paid may be secondary or tertiary further down the line from the positive experience. So it may be that you spend more time with something that you wouldn't ordinarily spend time with, and that the act of spending more time makes you more likely to spend money down the road.
Right. Well, yeah. Ultimately, generally, it goes to increasing revenue, but there might be some intermediate steps there in terms of like kind of socially spreading awareness of the game or spending more time with it, or yes.
Yeah. So in the early days of the web stuff, it was like, hey, we're going to put a pop-up ad that doesn't have an X that you can close. Right. So there's no way you have to know to press Alt F4 to close the window that the pop-up ad is in. Or like a mobile ad that is a takeover ad that has a tiny little X in the top right that would be really easy to click with a mouse, but is hard to hit with your finger. Or a banner ad that looks like a UI element on your page that you're like, oh, hey, I want to click the next button on this page and move to the next step in this process. And I mean, shit, that's an ad. I mean, I distinctly remember ads of that nature with Windows XP style UI elements on them. So that tells you how long that's been around. I'm trying to remember, were they able to spawn like browser pop-up windows without OS level? Depending on your browser.
What's that?
Depending on your browser. So for a brief period of time, you could pop up a JavaScript window that just had no frame around it, that had no window Chrome around it. They stopped doing that because it was obviously a terrible idea. Like that went away quickly. I feel like IE could do that. You could do all sorts of weird stuff with IE if you had ActiveX controls turned on as well, because that would let the browser spawn stuff that acted like an actual window. Okay. I mean, I certainly have seen plenty of web designers over time talk about how much they hate Internet Explorer, and that's a little bit of insight into why. Yeah. Let's see, the banner ad that looks like a UI element, the banner ad that just keeps exploding and then popping up like JavaScript menus that won't let you, that say, are you sure you want to close this? And you click OK, and it actually keeps going and opens 5 more windows and all that kind of stuff. Those are all dark patterns. They've been around for a long time. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Right. Like, so this is why I mentioned earlier that I think the term is more recent, but web designers have been talking about dark patterns for a really long time. Okay. Or maybe it just got into the popular usage. Anyway. Yeah. And it's something that I think in the game conversation has just become more popular recently too. Like, or people have become more aware of. I think game designers have been thinking about them for a long time, but maybe they didn't have a label for them until recently. That I don't know. Yeah. And it's actually, as you read through kind of some literature about this stuff, you realize a lot of the labels for the different categories are pretty common. Yeah, and it's they're named after psychological phenomena, or they came from, like, they were described at the same time when a game exploited them in some novel way. Like we'll talk about Farmville in a little bit. But the like, and sometimes you can use these same effects for good. So for example, if you have something that it's important that people read on your website, you can use a dark pattern to encourage them to read that rather than just click through the automatic, what looks like the default icon on their page. The cookie GDPR trackers that when you hit the show me the necessary stuff, they automatically fill only the non-collecting information cookies, the necessary for functionality cookies. That's actually that's actually good design. The bad ones are the ones that make you click 15 times to get through and do the thing that you actually want to do, which is block the personal.
There's also
collecting information.
Yeah, there's another bad form of those that involves when you opt into the, you basically say, okay, I want to set my preferences and click into the bigger window. They'll give you the big list of types of cookies you can disable, and they will all be disabled. But the button at the bottom that is like the one that's colored in, or the one that your subconscious mind is just drawn to clicking immediately, is an accept all button. So like, even though they all look like they're disabled, if you click the button that you think is going to be confirm that these are disabled, you're actually going to enable them all. Yeah,
and it's very much like that's an exploitation of your perception of what the default should do. Yeah. in that situation.
I am super susceptible to that stuff because I rarely read everything in Windows like that, because I just I'm very impatient with UI, and I want to just assume I know what decisions they made about what the defaults should be.
No one reads anything anymore.
Yeah.
And also, almost everyone clicks the defaults. This is why defaults are really important. This is why Microsoft got in trouble for Internet Explorer being the default browser and taking over defaults, because they knew that everybody just accepts the defaults. What the default settings are is incredibly important, and exploiting that is another one of those dark. Anyway,
yeah, I will mention I use Edge on a pretty regular basis as a kind of a supplement to Chrome, and they are still pretty bad about nagging you with, hey, do you want to make this your default browser? And frequently not in that language. Frequently more like, do you want
a better experience on the web?
Do you want to load optimized settings for Edge? And boy, does that happen to set this as your primary browser?
What a weird coincidence. Mm-hmm. Also stuff like, I don't know if this is a dark pattern technically, but the thing where you have to scroll to the end of the terms of service or the software license and then click before the accept button lets you click it. Fuck the people that do that. That's terrible.
It's a pain in the ass. I always assume that's just more legal CYA though.
It's stupid though, because it's not like you're reading. Like if they wanted to do that, they'd have it timed, so you have to read over 5 minutes and like, God, what a nightmare. Anyway, don't do that either. Like I said earlier, the dark pattern stuff, like the web was an opportunity to exploit it, but because of the kind of relationship between a dopamine hit, the kind of dopamine hits that games give your brain to make you feel good, and the fact that they control the ability to generate those and dole them out, means that games can kind of weaponize this stuff in a way that ranges from icky to really like dangerous and unhealthy. Typically they're designed to extract money from you and keep playing. Yeah. But they aren't like they're not just as simple as, hey, this button is smaller than you would expect or stuff like that. They're more complicated. And they can be like psychologically damaging. Like loot boxes are something everybody knows about, right? Blind bags and loot boxes, where you put a valuable item and make that more rare than a less valuable item, it essentially encourages gambling, like addictive gambling behavior in players, and incentivizes you to keep spending money until you get the thing that you want, right? They make you want the rare thing, and then you keep pumping money in until you get the rare thing out of the box.
Reading up on this stuff made me realize how expansive the definition of the term dark pattern is, because loot boxes is right there at the top of the list. And I was like, oh yeah, like everybody knows how shitty loot boxes are. That's been a thing for 10 to 15 years. Like pay to win is another one that I saw come up a lot, that like when you hear something like dark pattern, you're like, oh God, this sounds like some insidious new form of manipulation that has emerged. But actually it's a huge umbrella term over some concepts that you're familiar with from 15, 20 years ago even.
Well, and like loot boxes are a good example, because it's not just, loot boxes aren't just one thing. It's manipulating, it's creating artificial scarcity, right? Because we're talking about digital goods that don't have any appreciable physical cost.
Right. That's a pure design decision.
Yeah. And then they also do things like, those loot box animations that everybody makes fun of are specifically designed to make you feel like you've accomplished something, right? Like you see the big flashy lights, you see all the twinkling, and the music plays, and you get the good chime. The chime is the same as the chime that happens when you do something good in the game.
I mean, they work. They're
right.
Very effective.
Yeah, it makes you feel good. So it's like that's multiple things happening at the same time.
Yeah. There's also the slot machine aspect. Like
right.
The randomness is not just the artificial scarcity, but also the randomness of will you get. Yeah.
But and they can get grosser than that. Like there's like the human brain tends to find patterns. It finds patterns even when there are none. And that's the thing that slot machines exploit, and that loot boxes can exploit by, they'll give you something good every third box you buy, or when you buy boxes in 3s, or when you buy boxes in 10s or whatever. And it establishes that pattern, and then it just keeps you spending money and spending more money. When you combine it with like data tracking that you get in modern games, it can get really, really insidious.
Sure. Is the kind of stereotypical best value in buying, like, say, free to play currency? Would that count here? I don't know if that does. I mean, generally, I think that's actually legitimately saying, hey, this is the best like per unit costs that we offer, right? I don't know if that falls into this.
They're trying to get you to spend more. Like typically when you're buying premium currency, they're trying to get you to, there's a couple of ones here. That is a confusion over value. Okay. So like if you think about the classic Microsoft bucks or 800 points for $10,
Microsoft points were a dark pattern this whole time.
Oh, the Xbox 360 is entirely dark patterns.
Oh my
Chivos
God.
are dark patterns.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because Chivos are artificial goals that invest you in that ecosystem. So you're building value. Every time you add to your total gamer score, you're like, man, look at all this value I've put in the Xbox. I should buy another Xbox when the new one comes out.
I guess so. I mean, by that standard, I mean, quite literally every objective in a video game ever fits.
Not necessarily.
Here, I think. Because, I mean, well, we've said it before. Like the best achievements allow you to derive more value out of a game by giving you ways to play that you might not have thought of otherwise. But
that is absolutely the case. Yeah,
that's certainly not all of them.
But that like so. The individual achievements themselves can be fine, but by putting that overall gamer score on the achievements, that's keeping you closer to that ecosystem. It's pulling you back in.
Is the classic high score list in the arcade games of 40 plus years ago a dark pattern?
Only until the power turns off.
Huh. Because
most of them didn't save in ROM.
Seeing your name at number 10 sure might incentivize you to pump more quarters in.
I mean, when you put it that way, you're absolutely right. But the thing was, I always just made my name either ass or poo. So there were a lot of us on the list usually.
Sure.
But yeah, so like, and just to be clear, this stuff can happen. Like these aren't all bad, right? Like blind boxes and loot boxes, blind bags and loot boxes are unequivocally bad. Like fucking suck. People shouldn't do them. I'm waiting for the cow clicker flip on loot boxes where you just get the good thing every time you do that. Like, the cow clicker was Ian Bogost designing the game that's like the worst dark pattern game of all time.
Wait,
and it generated clickers. I feel like that was him, wasn't it?
Was it really? You might be right. Yeah, it totally was. Wow, I had no idea that he made that. Yeah,
he was trying to make like the ultimate Facebook game.
Yeah,
and then accidentally spawned an entire genre of terrible games.
Yeah, I just know him as an amusing Twitter follow. I did not realize that. I mean, that's probably how he's
a scholar,
game scholar. Prominence. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's definitely very much like sort of an academic experiment. What was God, the browser-based, text-based one, Candy.
It
wasn't Candy Clicker. It was Candy Shop.
It was CANDIE, right?
I don't remember. God, Candy Box. I think it might have been Candy Box.
Yeah, there's a bunch of candy.
That thing was free. Oh God. Oh no.
Don't do it.
No.
Nope. You're back in, Brad.
I've stumbled on Candy Box again.
Close that tab right now.
But I just hit 11 candies. I can now throw 10 candies on the ground. Hang on, I'm throwing.
Nope.
I threw 10 candies on the ground.
So this is a good example of the infinite treadmill, Brad, which is a temporal dark pattern. So we have okay. They're not all bad. This is the takeaway. You can use these patterns for good and for positive influence. In my experience, having played a lot of match 3 games, which are especially evil because the game controls whether you can win or not based on the gems it gives you at the top of the board when you replace others. You can like whether these are good or bad depends on how you feel at the end of a game session, right? Like, I think about them mostly when I play something and I get to the end of a session. I'm like, man, I feel worse now than I did when I started playing this game.
Boy, has that feeling familiar.
Yeah. Like you want to play, like, for example, I play a lot of Fortnite. Generally, even when I lose and I'm having a bad night with bad games, at the end of the game, the end of the evening, I've had fun and I enjoy myself. And I consider that time spent a positive. It positively contributes to my mental state, which is what I'm looking for from games.
Right. But now, crucially, correct me if I'm wrong, pretty much all the randomness in Fortnite is cosmetic. I feel like that's a dangerous statement.
There's no randomness. The randomness is in loot distribution.
That's what
in the game. Like there's there is no random loot distribution in there's no random cosmetics in Fortnite. There's no loot cosmetic drops.
Oh
no, you unlock stuff. So you generate XP if you buy the battle pass, which is another way that they lock you in.
Mm-hmm.
If you buy the battle pass, you generate XP by completing missions in the game,
right?
Like killing stuff, picking berries, shooting animals, whatever, riding animals. And then you can spend the XP that you earn. That XP is turned into stars when you level up. And then those stars can be used to purchase level items from the battle pass.
Right. So I knew about all that transaction based stuff. I just assumed that there also was like Dota does that because I think Dota may.
I don't think Dota has loot boxes anymore, do they?
No, they absolutely do. I don't remember if this is accurate or not. I feel like Dota may have been what originated the term battle pass. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that, but anyway,
yeah.
Dota both has the battle pass model, but also random drops after matches and loot boxes. But I figured Fortnite had a similar randomness to it, but I guess not.
No, the random boxes went away because of the EU stuff.
Okay,
I don't know if Fortnite ever had them. Overwatch had them for a long time because you'd unlock those boxes at the end of games, and then you'd get a skin that you probably already had 18 of.
Yeah, I mean,
PUBG had like a lot of games, a lot of non pay to win games have like random loot distribution.
Yeah,
it's cosmetic in nature.
Even Dota, it's not a problem because they're just cosmetic. Like that's not really, you open Dota shows you everything you can get out of a given loot box, and like it can be a little sad sometimes, like watching all the good stuff fade away as you get your crappy, I don't know, Doom set that whatever. But the much worse version of this is like going back further to stuff like World of Warcraft.
Well,
or in my case, Destiny was the worst expression of this. Like I know WoW was terrible about it. I just didn't get deep enough into WoW endgame for it to matter for me. But the investing massive amounts of time in a very difficult, lengthy activity for a chance at getting something that will make the game better and then not getting it over and over, like tying gear progression to random loot drops is what I'm talking about. Like I don't know how many raids I ran in Destiny 1 and got absolutely nothing out of them, like just playing the same multi-hour dungeon over and over, hoping to get that vision of confluence and fucking never getting it.
So like there's a scale here, right? Like this whole thing is a spectrum of super duper evil to slightly evil. And I think like, honestly, I think the stuff that's like what, okay. So I think, on my scale, personally, the pay to win stuff is where the most exploitative, awful things happen.
Sure.
Where, for example, I used to play not Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. Right?
Oh, that's the one. So it's like Destiny and Clash Royale are my examples here, and Clash Royale is the worst pay to win experience I have had.
So I think Destiny is a completely different scale, kind of, because you're paying once to get in. There's not even a monthly fee, which is another way that people, the what is it? That one is the monthly fee is a thing that applies pressure because you want to get the most value out of your $15, even though $15 for a month of WoW is kind of, for most of the people that are playing WoW, probably a relatively low, less than the price of a movie ticket, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah. But also, I mean, you get into the more nuanced argument of would you be spending nearly that much time playing WoW if it was not so stingy with the drops? Of course not. But you're right. Like Destiny, you're right. It was just a flat fee to get in. Also, like they made terrible design decisions around itemization and randomness in the original game that by the time even of like the first expansion, but especially by the time you got to Destiny 2, it was like the opposite problem of they were giving you too much good shit all the time.
Yeah.
So that was not like a staunch position that they took up and stuck with. That was what felt like them not knowing how to, like, everybody. It always felt to me like everybody kind of screws up their first loot game in that era. Like every time somebody, like, you remember the stories of like Diablo 3 was a disaster, and then they got it to where people liked it.
I played EverQuest 1, man. I know about disasters.
Right. And then like you know, but you saw the stories of, because they were at the same publisher, like the Bungie people talking to the Diablo developers trying to fix the itemization in Destiny similarly. You know what I mean? Like some of that stuff was like, okay, it's hard to get this stuff right. But then in other cases, such as Clash Royale, it's like they very clearly know exactly what they're doing.
Whoa, I see your keyboard now.
That's weird.
What the
Hang
hell?
on. Is this a dark pattern?
What did you do, Brad? Why am I looking at your keyboard?
I've been holding my phone for the last few minutes because my girlfriend was texting me, but not interacting with it.
Did you switch your call to the phone?
Oh, is this a Mac OS level thing?
It could be, because I'm seeing your keys. I see myself on your monitor. This is the weirdest thing that's ever happened. This is not a dark pattern, though, I don't think.
Ventura did introduce that ability to sort of throw video calls between your MacBook and your iPhone.
You threw something.
How did that happen? I wasn't even looking at the phone. I've just been sort of, I turned the phone on. Sure enough, connected to a laptop. You can disconnect to remove this iPhone from the Mac camera list. I'm doing that right now.
Perfect. Now you have to turn your camera back on.
I really need to figure out what kind of gesture or shake or whatever caused that to happen. Anyway, hey, these things are all around us.
Yeah, but I was going to talk about like the Destiny thing. Like, okay, so Clash Royale combined pay to win with MMR matchmaking. Well, or presumably MMR matchmaking. And it always... Okay, a lot of this we're going to talk about is speculative because we don't know how that matchmaking actually worked in Clash Royale. But when I played Clash Royale, it often felt as though I was being matched exclusively against people who paid a little bit more money into the system than I did.
It sure felt that way to me, too. I can't say for sure. I assume there was some kind of underlying skill ranking, or at least, hashed from kind of win percentage, if not skill.
Well, I would like if I wanted to make a lot of money with that, what I would do is match people who had spent a little bit of money with people who are the same skill level, but have spent slightly more money and thus have slightly better units than they did. So that you pretty consistently, almost, but not quite, could win.
So that's exactly how it felt. But I mean, also, like, regardless of the underlying logic, like the net result is the same, right? Whether the matching criteria are how much this person has spent, or if the criteria are how much this person has won. By spending more, they're winning more, right? So it kind of doesn't matter how they're doing it, because that is that game. Just to be clear, for people who haven't played it, like it's a 1v1 action strategy game in which you quite literally just pay money to make your units more powerful. Like, you literally just raise the like health and damage and stuff on your units by paying more money.
Well,
like,
you can also
when I say that out loud. Like, the fact that I played this game for so long makes, like, I feel like a lunatic that I would actually stick with a game of that nature. Well,
you could also grind out. This is the trick, is like finding the balance between, hey, it's obviously like there's a real fine line between, hey, if you grind this game out, you're never going to be able to compete with somebody who's put $1 in, versus, man, if I put a couple of dollars a week in, then I'll probably be okay, versus, if I put $1,000 in here, I'd be an unstoppable killing machine. Mm-hmm. Like they ride a real fine line between where they hit and where they don't hit those things. Brad, your camera's still off, by the way.
Oh, let me turn that back on. Hey, yeah. the stuff. Okay, we'll get there. Let's keep talking.
Okay.
You know what else occurs to me about Clash Royale real quick is that I'm trying to think how to describe this. Would this count as a dark pattern? The emoting system in that game.
Oh yeah, the like, taunting. Because they only give you like 4 taunts at the end of the game, and they all were toxic. They're all this
little like cartoonish king character.
Yeah, that's
all of them just making shitty, gloating kind of facial expressions by and large. And so there was no text or voice chat between players, but you could just see this little king popping up and laughing at you as fast as they could spam it. It would just go over and over for people who were just like taunting you with their pay to win units as they murdered you.
Yeah.
And I do think they maybe changed the defaults on that. That may have become opt-in instead of opt. I think when the game was new, you could not turn that off. I think that
you could not turn that off in the game when I stopped playing it. Yeah.
And I think at least they later gave you the chance to mute that, if not make it opt in entirely. But like that, I mean, the net effect was to make me play the game less because it made me so angry to be not just losing to people who spent money, but who were taunting me at the same time. But like, I'm sure the intention there was to make you mad enough to go buy some stuff.
Well, so this happens. I don't think this wasn't specifically listed on one of the things that I saw, but I mean, I guess if it's as competition, right, which is usually fine, right? Like when you play a first person shooter and you're playing against another team, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and like there's nothing inherently bad with that. Now, if you pair it with the matchmaking that puts people who spent more money just ahead of you, or people, that manipulates your mood to get you in a place where you're going to want to spend money so you feel better about how you've done, that's icky. That's bad. Mm-hmm. The emotes are a fun one because, like, is that inherently evil? I don't know. I mean, maybe the fact that you can't turn it off feels bad. Like Rocket League used to have this problem where they had the kind of, they had a CS Counter-Strike style quick chat menu where you could like press up on like you'd press up, down, left, and right had different, like up would be nice shots and down would be, sorry, I made a mistake, and, and variations on those. Right. And when somebody scored an own goal or something by accident, you could say nice shot on the other, if you were on the other team. And that's super toxic, right? That's really shitty.
Yeah. Of course.
Recently they turned off since they've become an Epic owned thing, they actually have set it so that you could turn off all of the in-game communication entirely, because it used to be that you couldn't turn off that chat thing. Now you can turn that off. You can turn off in-game voice. You can turn off all the other things that like, so you don't get any feedback on how the other players think you're doing, which is actually quite nice. Like that means it's almost like you're playing a single player game. It just happens that the other players are controlled by people that have no impact in your life other than whether they win or lose.
Right.
Okay. So let's go down. I think it's probably useful to go down the list of the things that I pulled out of the different examples on the different sites. The four big categories that most places listed: temporal, which encourage you to spend more time in the game; monetary, which encourages you to spend more money in the game. As Brad pointed out earlier, most of the things here eventually end up getting you to spend more money in the game. Social, which encourages players to come back if they've been away, or to not leave, to feel like they can't leave,
or to spread awareness of the game to other people.
Yeah, exactly. And then just generally psychological things that make it hard to abandon the game. So the temporal ones are things like, hey, streaks and daily rewards, right? Like Snapchat even has streaks, right?
Yep. Absolutely. It's like, well, I've won a match. I've gotten my win a day for the last 5 days. I have to keep playing now. Like, I can't let this win streak go away.
Well, and just to be clear, like streaks can be really positive things for people. Some people find them very motivating. Like there's entire like task and like self-help apps that are designed around the idea of making streaks. My friend Simone made a board that has 365 little lights on it, and each day you complete your streak, you press the button and the next one lights up. Okay, and it's really fun and good. I
mean, I would guess there is a healthy, positive way to do just about everything on here.
Almost certainly.
It's the ones that require. I'm trying to think how to even describe it. I mean, generally it's the stuff that makes you keep playing beyond the point you want to play. It's like for example, like a win streak is fine as long as you keep the win streak, even if you don't play it on a given day. It's only when they penalize you for not playing it that it becomes a problem.
Well, does this make me feel good or does this make me feel bad? Right. Like it sometimes is as simple as that. So like a daily challenge in like a puzzle game, totally fine. It's even better if it lets you go back and do previous daily challenges, right? If you miss one, right? That stuff's all totally okay. Appointment based play is another one that's probably like, hey, Neptune's Pride is a web-based game where you like do an interstellar 4X war, but it all operates in real time. So like your fleets can arrive at 2:00 in the morning. And that would mean that if somebody's attacking your home system at 2:00 in the morning, you have to get up at 2:00 in the morning and defend your home system. Incredibly toxic game. Like a really cool game. Also incredibly toxic.
That does sound kind of rough.
We should play that with the community sometimes. It'll make enemies for life. Grinding. Grinding is one of those things that like, you play Valheim.
Yep.
You chop down a tree and you get 5 sticks and you use that to make an axe. And then you have to use that axe to chop down 5 slightly bigger trees to make a slightly better axe.
Oh, yeah.
And then you do, and like you can just do that infinitely, which is,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, that even predates like kind of situations where they make more money by requiring that kind of thing. I mean, like the first Final Fantasy on NES absolutely would present you with situations where it's like, well, I'm gonna walk around this one forest for the next 4 hours fighting random battles to try to level up enough to go beat this boss finally.
Here's a tower with 100 levels. Grind as much as you'd like. Keeping people from saving at specific when they want. So you can't walk away at a specific time is always unfortunate. And for this is a tough one because like there were entire generations where the technology kind of prevented people from saving whenever they wanted. I mean, with checkpoints and stuff like that, like you could have made a save system that let you save wherever you wanted, but it would have been a little more expensive and time consuming, whatever. Yeah. Infinite treadmills also terrible. Like, hey, you can keep doing this forever. Kind of the multiplayer, like big multiplayer games are like this, right? Like your CODs and your Fortnites and your Apex Legends.
The Prestige, does that count?
Yeah, Prestige counts as like, hey, I filled up my stuff. I'm going to Prestige and fill it all up again.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Fair.
Well, I mean, arguably any competitive game is this because they never, like you're never going to beat Dota, right?
No, Dota
will always win.
Yes.
Then the other one is Wait to Play, which is this is a mobile classic. Hey, you've done really well at our game, so you got to stop and not play for like 10 hours.
Yes. Those arbitrary timers were when those really came on the scene. They were just like among the most egregious things I think I have seen. Hey, it's going to take 6 hours to build this building. Yep.
You planted your carrots. Now wait 10 hours for them to spawn or pay us 99 cents. Man, 99 cents doesn't sound like that much. I'm just paying for my time. The monetary stuff is like artificial scarcity. We talked about loot boxes, paying to skip. That's part that goes with those timers with the Wait to Play, paying to win. I think that this is the king of all bad dark patterns.
Yeah, I think I can agree. Well, some of the ones that just straight up fool you into like clicking the wrong button and buying stuff you didn't mean to are.
Well, that's actively illegal. That's not Fortnite, just a dark pattern.
I mean, we'll get to that. Fortnite, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I didn't play Fortnite with stuff with. Well, okay. The monthly fees kind of fit in this category because it does encourage, it locks, if it makes you feel like you have to get your money's worth out for your monthly fee.
Sure.
And Fortnite does this. This is like they have the Fortnite Club where you get free access to the battle pass and a custom skin every month. You're like, man, I got to get my $10 worth out of my Fortnite Club or else I'm not going to. Why am I spending on it? Anyway.
What do you think about the recent phenomenon? I don't know if Fortnite started this of essentially allowing you to level up a battle pass without paying for it, and then you can retroactively buy it and get the rewards you've already unlocked. Like I'm tempted to say that actually is not so bad. It's actually kind of okay, but I'm wondering if there's like some psychological effect I'm not missing here. Or I'm not thinking of.
So I worked on the battle pass on our game, which is a small game that like we don't actively monetize super hard or at all really now. The thing I will say is that battle passes that are good seem to be primarily like having looked at like Fortnite and Apex and Call of Duty and Dota and League of Legends and Valorant and all the games that have battle passes right now. The ones that are good seem to be more about engagement and getting people to keep playing, like making regular play part of their thing. So it is a time thing, not a money thing necessarily. I think that the hey, you can invest in this thing and level it up without having to spend money. And couldn't you do that with Dota? Or did you have to buy the compendium in Dota in order to level it up to unlock? Like I felt like you could buy the compendium, and at least now you can buy the compendium in Dota. I'm pretty sure after you've played a bunch, and you'll unlock all the stuff that you would have unlocked up until that point.
I can't remember. I
think you guys bought the compendium right at the start, so it didn't ever apply to you, really.
Yeah, it's tough to say. My memory of the earliest Battle Pass stuff in Dota was that unless you had already bought it, you weren't gaining experience on it. So anything you played before you bought it was just that was gone in terms of progression. I could be wrong. Like I don't know. The current model. On the one hand, it's nice to know like, oh, I am racking up progression here. Even if I'm not getting anything out of it yet, I have the option later to give them the $10 and get all those items I would have earned.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there is maybe kind of a negative enticement aspect there, right? Of like, oh, look at all the stuff I could have if I just gave them the money because I already did it. Like
we'll get to that one in a minute. That's a good one. The incomplete rewards, incomplete tasks is a really messed up one. They're basically letting you instill value in that thing, endow value in that before you have paid them money, right? And to a large extent, like Fortnite is the classic example of this. Once you buy the Fortnite Battle Pass one time, you earn enough currency each season to buy the next one. If you complete or even get mostly complete with the Battle Pass. So like they're literally they just want people like that. That's a game that needs 100 people to get a session going. So they need to keep people playing all the time. So they're just trying to get people to come back every day and do a little bit every day so that, if you play. I think I did the math on the Fortnite Battle Pass last year when we were doing this, and I figured if you played 2 games a day or 2 games a day, 5 days a week, which is like 30 minutes a day, basically 30 minutes, 5 days a week, you're probably going to be able to level up the Battle Pass to the maximum, to the first big level. So, the Fortnite Battle Passes go up to 200 levels basically. And once you get to 100 levels, you've unlocked all of the main stuff. And then everything past that is just like reskins of stuff that's already been doled out. It's nothing generally super special.
Yeah. I remember even when it was a kind of a big story in World of Warcraft, when they started letting you buy more game time with in-game gold, right? Like it's the same,
that stuff was crazy. Yeah.
And that was years after it launched, but I remember that happening. Here's maybe another candidate for a dark pattern.
Okay.
When I played Fortnite a few months ago, just to check out the UE5 stuff, did my first few matches. They do not make it clear at all in those first few matches if you're playing against people or not.
Nobody ever plays their first few matches of Fortnite against people. There's like maybe 5 other people in the game.
Right, but they don't really make that clear. Like,
those people would have to be really bad. Their bots are bad.
Well, no, that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Is like you kind of just work your first few matches, right? Like you just stomp everything, and it's like, man, that feels great. I'm going to keep playing this for sure. So maybe I'll go get the battle pass before I play anymore. You know what I mean? Like they ease you in such a way that like.
That one is a psychological one called illusion of control.
Oh, okay.
It is. It makes you feel more skilled than you are. Fortnite is like this is a tough situation because like a battle royale, you need 100 players, right? Mm-hmm. And if they don't have 100 people in the queue, are they going to make you wait 5 minutes for enough players to do? Like I see bots in games that I play, and I've played probably a couple, 1,000 hours of Fortnite at this point.
Interesting. I figured the bots were gone by the time you got deep in.
No, so they'll fill them in, and they get a little bit more skilled, but they're basically just filler. So like bots will burn your game. Like bots will sneak up behind you, and they just start shooting through bushes and stuff because they don't. They'll make a bunch of noise when you're sneaking around and totally hose you.
Yeah, I understand why they would use bots to fill out a match, but to be clear, I just assumed Fortnite was still so huge they didn't have problems filling out matches anymore. But
I think there's times a day, and they have a bunch of they have a crazy number of regions for Fortnite. Like there's 3 regions in the U.S. There's Central, East, and West. So like think about the number of games that have to be going for somebody in Australia to get a game at midnight is substantial. Anyway, okay, so. Premium currency is the confusion over value. Like that thing with the 800, Microsoft started this one as far as I know.
Did they?
The 800 gamer points or Xbox bucks for $10.
It was 80 points to $1.
Yeah, that's hard math.
Conversion.
Doing a 4/5 conversion is challenging, and often you do it the wrong way.
Yep.
So you think, I'm spending $8 instead of spending $10, $12. Icky. Yep. You'll notice they ditched that a few years ago. Now it's just you just have a wallet with money in it, which is nice.
They just went to dollars or straight up currency at some point.
The monthly fee stuff, the depreciation, which is a MMO classic thing where you grind for 100 hours in World of Warcraft, and then Burning Crusade comes out, and all of a sudden the starter zone in Burning Crusade is dropping gear that's better than your raid gear was in the initial Warcraft launch.
That sucks. That absolutely feels bad. I mean, I kind of also understand though, because like they do need a ramp for people who didn't play to the end game of the previous expansion, right? Like Destiny is also terrible about that, but also like if they didn't do that, and if you just put a few hours into the last expansion and then pick up the new one, like, what are you going to do if they don't start dropping stuff that's like level appropriate right off the bat?
If you are Blizzard and you pay to host servers for World of Warcraft, what's the best possible player for you?
What is the best possible player?
The best possible player is somebody who plays like 2 hours a month and buys every expansion, and that's it.
puts very little load on your infrastructure.
Very little load on the infrastructure and lots of money coming in.
Yep.
So yeah, look, it's a weird situation.
It is. I just to add on there, I think they kind of struck a good balance eventually with a lot of games that rely on random loot drops like that, where kind of rarity tiers and the benefits associated with those are divorced from the kind of baseline level scaling in terms of just basic damage output and stuff like that. You know, it's like, oh, we're going to start dropping guns that will let you hang with these harder enemies right off the bat, but they're all going to be grays and greens that have very few perks or customization slots or whatever. So they're still like within a given level range. There are still additional things to chase.
Well, and there's multiple axes that people find valuable too. So like you may think that you may be purely looking for damage per second, right? In your weapons. And I might be looking for the thing that's the stupidest looking flame sword. And I don't give a shit about the damage tiers because I don't play that way. Right. And just to be clear, I think it's pretty unfair to tag Blizzard a lot for like stuff that they did in 2006.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago now.
And you know, they weren't the first. Like there were MMOs before them doing, I mean, EverQuest is arguably way worse than WoW.
EverQuest, and I say this, I played a lot of EverQuest. EverQuest didn't tell you what the spells did. They wanted you to figure it out to the point that like I played to level 100 or 80 or whatever it was by the end of the 5th expansion. And there were some spells that we figured out 5 expansions into that game because nobody had ever, like they didn't write a text description for the spell, right? Like an aggro debuff. It turns out really hard to figure out what that does, but it just makes the area at which the mob will aggro a lot smaller. There's
a lot of design decisions in early MMOs that are like fascinating from I can't think of the right term here. It's not masochism. It's not like grueling realism necessarily, but it's stuff like what you're talking about, like really obscure ability stuff.
Yeah.
It's stuff like remember Star Wars Galaxies, how they wanted it to be incredibly difficult and rare for somebody to be a Jedi. So it took like massive amounts of
10. Yeah.
Right. Like stuff like that, or even like the Ultima Online thing of anybody can be killed at any time and have all of their stuff taken by another player. Like things like that can be punishing, but also like really fascinating from the standpoint of not including the guardrails that most games include to keep you from having things that allow you to have a really bad time, I guess, are really interesting from a design standpoint, even if they can be abused pretty badly.
Yeah, those early MMOs, this is something that's happened over and over again in game design, if you think about it, right? Like those early MMOs were the mass marketization of text-based MUDs. Yeah. Right. And some of those things like the aggro debuff didn't exist in MUDs because they were chat based and you didn't really have a good sense of distance from the other enemies. You're just either in the same area or you weren't a lot of times. So like if you were 10 units away, you couldn't make the aggro debuff range go down because there was no concept of distance in a lot of those games.
Right.
And then a lot of it is like WoW. Like a big innovation in WoW was literally they told you what your reward would be for finishing a quest.
Right. I forgot that was a big deal at the time. I mean, to be fair, you know, like the market spoke very quickly. Like that's why World of Warcraft became the biggest game in history, because they put up those guardrails around what was otherwise going to be a very punishing experience if they had just like they literally just made EverQuest except friendlier.
They made the game accessible to people who valued their time slightly more than people who played EverQuest. Right. And each like that happened with roguelikes, right? Like Spelunky is a really fucking hard game. You look at something like Dead Cells, still a hard game, but the more you play, the more it reduces you unlock more weapons and more things that are likely to be in tune with the way you play and stuff like that. Same thing happened with shooters. So, you know, Doom and Quake are incredibly difficult games to play. And when you look at that compared to, say, a modern Call of Duty where you have like auto aim with a controller and all this other stuff, they're much more accessible games now.
Yeah. Also, I mean, this was more a technical limitation at the time, but like playing those early shooters over modems.
Yeah.
You know, you're literally playing with like a quarter second latency. Like when I was playing Quake over 28.8, I mean, it was quite literally
Yeah.
250, 300 milliseconds between click a button and a gun shooting.
And there was no client prediction in a lot of cases.
It was, yes, playing original NetQuake before Quake World came out on a modem was like, that was a crucible, if anything was in multiplayer ever.
Yeah. So like competition, like, okay, so talked about money, social stuff, pyramid schemes. Hey, you got to bring in 3 friends and you get a bonus for bringing in 3 friends. That's everybody's seen those. And especially that was really popular in Facebook games.
Yeah.
What was Mafia Wars was the classic one of those. Obligation. This is, hey man, we need 3 clerics for this raid and we're not gonna be able to go if you're not around on Saturday. So you gotta ditch your kid's soccer game and come play this WoW raid with us, man.
You gonna let the guild down?
Yeah, you like,
you want this.
Yeah. Are you part of the team or are you not? The nice thing is the players do this for you if you set up the game right.
God, right. Even consider the idea of like whales or super diehard players like carrying water for the dart patterns voluntarily.
Yeah, well, but then at the same time, like, is it bad that I just play Fortnite with my friends 3 nights a week at 8:00?
No, of course not.
That's like a social activity, yeah, I don't know. It's as with all of this stuff, it's often complicated. Friend spam is the Mafia Wars thing again. It's like you building stuff in to harass your friends to sign up for some bullshit that they don't need. FOMO. This is a good one. Okay, man, we're doing this. We're going to do this raid for the first time. You want to be there for the first time, right? You don't want to miss the drop chance on your breastplate. You're gonna, yeah.
100% felt that one. Not necessarily like a direct A to B of, I feel like I'm going to miss the chance to get this drop I want. It's more just like, it's like the nature of the raid, for example. Like it's so hard and so time consuming getting that many people together with that much time carved out and the ability to complete it. It's like, I have to do this. I don't want to play this today, but I have to, because when else are we going to have a chance to tackle this? And like,
Destiny raids are 9 people? 10 people? 6. Okay.
6. So way less than 40, thankfully. But and finishing some of those Destiny raids was incredibly satisfying. Like, don't get me wrong, but still there is absolutely a feeling of like, I got to cancel my plans. This is when else are when all of my friends going to be able to do this again. Like, I have to do this now.
Well, it's one of those things. It's like if you look at the progression of raid design from EverQuest launch, which some of those world bosses that I think they probably didn't design to be killed in EverQuest 1 time frame, like it would take 70 or 80 people to kill, right? Yeah. Down to WoW making raids 24 people, 40 people, and then 24 people, and Destiny being like, hey man, just get 2 groups. That's fine. That's cool. That's all you need. Like we're going in the right direction on a lot of this stuff. And I don't think like Destiny raids are any like I only did 1 Destiny raid ever because I never got super into Destiny, but like I didn't find that much less satisfying than killing Lady Vox in EverQuest, which took 90 people and 2 weeks. Right.
Jesus.
Right.
Wow.
It was much less exhausting.
Man. Yeah. Part of me is a little sad I missed out on EverQuest, but maybe not that sad. I don't know.
EverQuest, like I have a great amount of fondness, and I learned a lot about like honestly running a guild in EverQuest was harder than managing most teams I've managed as a professional.
Oh boy.
But I don't miss EverQuest.
Yeah.
And then the last one, these are the dangerous ones. We'll spend a little more time on these. Sorry, we're going kind of long on this. I didn't the psychological stuff that makes it hard to abandon the game. So like the endowed value, right? Like I've done 10 battle passes in Fortnite. That means I have 100 items in my inventory. And even though I don't ever use any of those items, they're still sitting over me. And I'm thinking, man, I don't want to leave my banana peel skin. That's a pretty dope skin. Yeah. This one is weird, and I didn't know this until I read the stuff for this episode. People are more likely to remember incomplete tasks than completed tasks.
Oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, once you've completed the task, you've completed the loop, the psychological loop. You've gotten the whatever payoff that might be, whether it's just dopamine or if you got an item out of it. There's also nothing left to look forward to. There's nothing left to test your mettle. Like, it's just done. Like the value is gone instantly. It's kind of... I don't know if this is similar. I have a weird thing with especially like open world games that have a lot of side stuff where once I finish the main story, I don't really care about going back and doing more side stuff. Like, even though some of it might be quite good content in its own right, it's like, there's just a feeling of this is done. Like these side activities no longer have value to me because I've seen the story through.
So this is it. Like open world games are really good at this, right? Like, and this is one of those ones that's complicated because sometimes it can be good and sometimes it can be bad, right? Like I finished God of War, for example, and I was like, I looked at my achievement list and I was like, oh man, I have to kill like 2 Valkyries and I'll 100% this game. So then of course, and I got to find one thing of gold. Right. So then I load that up and I go do that stuff and I feel good about it. And I have a really hard fight and it's very satisfying. And it feels like I made myself better at not just that game, but also that kind of genre of games, which I had not been good at before. And that was really satisfying. If you, the inverse of this is like, I don't want to pick on Call of Duty, but I'm going to pick on Call of Duty. Call of Duty has this mission system in their DMZ mode that is just inexorably complicated and difficult to parse. And it seems entirely designed to never let you finish all of the tasks. Right. Like, whereas Fortnite's mission system, if you play 2 or 3 nights, you'll probably finish all of the weekly stuff. Right. It is the overwhelm, like one of the things I don't have on the list here, but the idea that you can overwhelm people with too much information because we're only able to process a certain amount of things at once is another one of these psychological ones that makes you more likely to make a bad decision. Artificial goals. So achievements fit in this category. Collectibles, all those little dots on the open world map, like open up a Far Cry or an Assassin's Creed and you see 1,000 dots. Those are all artificial goals. Do you need to climb to the top of that tower? Actually, the tower you might have to do, but do you need to go investigate that mountain lion den? Probably not.
Do you need all 900 plus Korok seeds?
Yeah. How many skins do you realistically need in Red Dead Redemption? The illusion of control. This is one of the ones that is a really icky. Like you can, with a large enough player base, you can manipulate people's feelings of their perceived skill really effectively. So, for example, when I play Fortnite with my daughter, her matchmaking, she gets match made into much lower skill games than I do, and they tend to put you into those games. It feels really good when I play Fortnite with my daughter because we just absolutely rock ass. We destroy people left and right. It's like I'm owning the 7-year-olds, right? It doesn't probably feel great for them. Mm-hmm. But that same manipulation that I mean, just to be clear, I'm not playing with my daughter to manipulate and let me get easy wins over 7-year-olds because that would be really uncool on my part. Yeah, I do like spending time playing games with my daughter. That's very fun.
Of course.
But the matchmaking system, if it's like, oh man, okay, if Fortnite does some science and they're like, okay, if we make them lose 8 times, they're going to feel really bad. And then we dump them into the 9-year-old pool and they just absolutely pwn everybody in there and get 30 kills. They're going to feel really good. And then after they do that, are they more likely to spend money in the store if we prompt them with a store prompt when they leave that game? Oh yeah. Or, hey, if somebody gets killed, if somebody loses badly 8 times in a row, comes in second place 8 times in a row, right? And then we send them home. They reach the end of the time that they usually play and they log off. Are they more likely to come back tomorrow or are they less likely? So if we let them go out on a win, if we give them a slightly easier matchmaking at the end of the night, they go out on a win, they're more likely to come back tomorrow.
Some of what you're describing emerged organically out of early multiplayer games. I'm sure a lot of people know this, but the term is smurfing, going and making a fresh account so you'll get dropped back to the bottom of the matchmaking ladder with a lot of skill built up just so you can absolutely destroy all the newcomers.
Yeah, go get your cheap StarCraft key from the gray market site.
Yes, is a phenomenon known as smurfing. And so I didn't even consider that actual game designers have now weaponized smurfing in a way.
Well, and just to be clear,
by manipulating skill rankings like you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like that kind of stuff is with a large enough player base pretty easy to do. Mm-hmm. Nobody's gotten caught doing it, right? But I think we've all felt that, right?
Matchmaking algorithms and criteria are so opaque. It's not like they're ever going to have to disclose those to Congress or anything. It's kind of hard to catch them red-handed.
Well, they're opaque and they're also transitory. So like, my experience at 10 p.m. on Tuesdays could be different than your experience at 10 a.m. on Wednesday.
Yeah.
but it's stuff to be aware of, right? Do you always go out on a win when you're playing Call of Duty? That's weird. You stop playing at the same time every night. What a weird coincidence.
Interesting, man. That is, God, dude, that I don't know why all this stuff is insidious, but I don't know why this feels the most insidious, that they would actually, and of course they're doing this, pattern or model your time of day habits, you know?
I mean, I don't know that they are, but they could be. They have that information.
Yeah. We talked about it before. You'd be amazed at the different types of data that are being collected at all times.
Well, and when you're living, like the data that's collected on you when you live in a web browser and a phone is way, way less than the, like, you know, it's like modeling number of clicks per minute as a measure of attention span is a, you know, would be easy to do when you're playing a game. The last one in the psychological thing that I wanted to call it is the variable rewards. And this one, every multiplayer shooter I've ever played does this in the modern era. So like your Call of Duty where every gun has an XP level and an unlock level, and your character has an XP level, and your character skin has an XP level, and you have quest rewards, quest XP levels, and you have 50 different things. So when you finish the game, Fortnite does it too. When you finish the game, you get a list with like, hey, you get 50 XP for this, and you get 10,000 XP for this, and you get 100,000 XP for this, and you get 250,000 XP for this. And you're like, and it all goes by so fast, you don't have any idea what any of it is. It's just overwhelming you with, look at all the cool shit you got for finishing this thing. Mm-hmm. Whether you win or lose, just to be clear, like, you know, you win a game of Fortnite, you get the victory royale, and then you get the thing. If you lose, you get to watch somebody making the donkey emote at you, and then you get the thing. It triggers that you've done good dopamine release with a bunch of shit that your brain can't process. And it makes you feel like even if you didn't win, you have done something that your brain should be happy with.
You made some progress.
Yeah, you've done something good. So yeah, and the really awful stuff that happens when you combine multiples of these things, like the matchmaking stuff with the illusion of control, or the pay to win with the matchmaking, or maybe it's just matchmaking is bad. Maybe we should just go back to server browsers. Is the takeaway? Yes,
let me run dedicated servers for everything.
Trust me, you don't want to run anyway. There's not a good takeaway here, I guess.
Well, I mean, the takeaway is just be aware. You know, like kind of just know. When you engage with games or web pages or social media services or anything that could implement these techniques, just be aware, you know, knowing, I think you said it at the beginning, right? Like knowing about these makes you much more readily able to recognize them and maybe not be
I think Duke said it in G.I. Joe that knowing is half the battle.
That's right. Something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we close here? I've done something.
Oh, what have you done? Hold on, we said we were going to talk about Fortnite's FTC thing briefly.
Okay,
they just got fined $500 million.
Yes, although I think only half of that was for dark pattern related.
Yeah, behavior. Half of that was for COPA monetizing children, and half of it was for dark pattern violations.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with COPA, but they also part of this settlement was also about them, I believe, defaulting voice chat to on for people under 13, stuff like that. You know, like it was also some in-game communication stuff as well.
So COPA is the law. It's the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act rule, whatever. It's the thing that says it's the thing that prevents anybody from under 13 from signing up for accounts without parents' permission. So if you're under 13, you can't create a Twitter account, you can't create Twitch, you can't create Tumblr, whatever, without your parents getting an email that says, hey, your kid signed up for this. Do you want to approve it? And the idea is people are not supposed to collect data on minors under 13 in the same way that they would collect data on you or I without consent of the parents, because presumably children aren't able to consent to that. That's all it is. Basically, they were letting kids buy stuff without parental approval. And so they've had to offer some refunds for that, and also for some dark pattern stuff around maybe letting people make purchases without confirmations. So now, let's see, just to be clear, this was a pretty big fine. Often these fines are inconsequential to the vendors, like a couple of days or maybe a week's worth of revenue. This was a month's worth of revenue, the 500 million combined.
That's not nothing.
And now the upshot is that when you buy something in Fortnite and equip it, it says, hey, you can refund this if you click this button by accident until you start your first game or dance in the lobby with other people watching. So,
okay,
you got that going for you.
It's something.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah.
All right.
I'm in favor. Like once you're paying attention to this stuff, there's a lot of really gross stuff in this space in kids games. Roblox, like don't let your kids play Roblox.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine.
My kid plays Roblox. I wish I hadn't. Unfortunately, it is a part of her social life that was unavoidable during the pandemic, but don't avoid Roblox. It's really bad. Yeah. Play Minecraft, play something. Oddly, the stuff owned by Microsoft is less gross than almost everything else in the market.
Yeah. I mean, plenty of microtransactions in Minecraft these days, but the base game is still pretty good.
And it's not the things that are microtransaction based in Minecraft for the most part have actual value rather than just being like, look, Roblox, if you want to see some dark patterns, go load up the popular Roblox games and see how they gate access and how they do pay to win stuff and all of that. And you'll like, it is, if you want to make if you want to make 30% of a lot of money because of the way they pay developers, then you can do all the dark patterns you want inside Roblox.
30%.
If you want to so they pay you in Roblox when you generate Robux in the game, in a Roblox game that you build, they pay you back in Robux. And if you want to turn those Robux into cash, the conversion rate is abominable.
Wow, man. I had no idea it was that bad.
Roblox is super gross. Yeah.
Generally 30% is generally the platform share, not the creator share. And even that is considered significant.
So for Roblox, because they are paying through platform currencies, they're eating the 30% on their side. Like it as always, it's complicated. I still think Roblox is pretty gross.
Yeah, I can see it. And huge.
And enormous. Yeah.
All right.
So you've done something stupid, I think. Have you done something inadvisable?
Moments ago.
Oh, no.
I opened the App Store.
Yeah.
I clicked download on Clash Royale.
Oh, it wasn't still on your phone?
No, I thought I had left I must have deleted it in a fit of pique at some point years ago. I haven't launched Clash Royale in 3 or 4 years at least. I'm just going to open it and see what happens. I want to see what kind of re-onboarding there might be in this game now. Or whoa,
that is really loud.
Oh. That was very loud. Oh, I remember that sound.
Oh, hey, I can download it too. Man, I really like this game. A grossly monetized version of this game would be so good.
I said that so many times on bombcasts and stuff. I would pay $10 or $20 for a version of this without microtransactions because the game itself is extremely good.
There was a period of time when like this game was as popular as PUBG was in 2017.
Oh, dude,
in our circles.
They were streaming esports tournaments of this game, and they were fun to watch. Like they were legitimately, for the same reason I liked watching StarCraft, they were really entertaining.
I remember sitting at GDC and playing Clash Royale in a group with like 6 people one year. Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I just want to load this up and see if there were any enticements they hit me with as a lapsed player.
They're just like, hey, you can play. Here's how you play. They're just teaching me like a new player right now.
Okay, I have tapped this screen once and they're already hitting me with what looks like a boost for my golem card.
Oh, who doesn't want a golem boost?
I'm just going to hit show card and see.
Do you really? You got that? I got here's how to play.
Good. Okay, the king has popped out and says, good news, you've unlocked star points. Yeah, I bet I have. Okay. Here's a gift to get you started. Oh, now I've gotten a card level boost from my magic archer. Now they want me to connect a Supercell ID, but I don't think I have. I might. Anyway, I just want to load this up. I've had people like tweet at me here and there saying like, hey, it's not as abusive as it used to be. You should check it out again.
Did you get the important please read when you started it?
No.
Mine said, important, please read. Clash Royale is free to play, but you can speed up your progress with in-app purchases. You can disable this in your device settings. Tap OK to accept our terms and privacy policy.
Oh, wow. Dude. King level update. We have added more king levels and reduced the amount of XP required for each. There is straight up a There's straight up like 2 progress bars. It says old progress and new progress, and the new progress bar is way bigger and has way more levels on it. I'm taking a screenshot of this.
Wow. I have
leveled up. I'm getting a level up animation just for starting this game.
You should, before I've even played it. You should uninstall this quick.
You're getting quite good at this whole Clash Royale thing, says the king, when I haven't played in years.
Wow, Brad.
You've now gained access to card mastery. Oh man, I do like leveling up cards.
It's funny. I'm getting like the new player thing. You're getting the return player thing.
Okay, maybe you were on a different Game Center account or something.
No, previously. It was on the same Game Center account, but it's been a longer time. Like I think you played way after I stopped.
Maybe so. I was pretty dedicated to this. This game was my bus rides for a long time.
Oh, right. So this came out right like 2013, right? 2012. Maybe 2014?
No, much later than that. Clash of Clans was way bigger earlier. This came out, I think this is more like 2017-ish.
So I started driving after Whiskey Media shut down in 2012. I started driving to work and not riding the BART anymore.
Okay.
So my time for this kind of thing evaporated.
Okay. We have to end this podcast. the king pop. Rejoice. You've unlocked magic items. Like it is just a deluge of new stuff that I have supposedly earned by launching this game again.
Go to your desktop, go to your Springboard, and long press that app, and go to remove application.
I should probably do that after we finish the podcast.
So that's it. Dark patterns. A great dark pattern is to go to patreon.com/tech. No, this is not a dark pattern. This is a good pattern.
That is the brightest of patterns.
Okay. You should go to the Patreon for the Tech Pod, and if you want to support the show, you can sign up for $5 a month and get access to our patron episodes, a wonderful Tech Pod community in the Tech Pod Discord, and we also have a Mastodon server that's running now. That's open to everybody. You don't have to be a patron, but we do encourage people who want to support the Mastodon who are using it to chuck in a couple bucks to the Patreon because it takes time and energy to keep it running.
Yes.
But this I hope that people who listen to this episode, sorry, not to go back to the episode for a sec, but I hope that like just knowing about this stuff helps people understand it a little bit better and be more aware of it so that they can tell when they're being manipulated. And can discern what feels good versus from what feels bad. Anyway. It's we always like to thank all of our patrons. So thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
We especially like to thank our executive producer tier patrons, including Nick Johnston, Paddle Creek Games, makers of Fractured Veil, Andrew Slosky, Octothorpe, parentheses Bunny Crimes, Just Wedge, Joel Krauska, Twinkle Twinkie, David Allen, and James Kamek. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you all. And I think that'll do it for us on this week's episode.
We got to go because I keep staring at the screen.
You got to uninstall it, man. You got to get rid of that.
What if I just play like one match?
No, it's going to look, this is how, look, do I need to tell you what this one is? Competition, and it's a little bit of illusion of control because they're going to give you something really easy to win. So you're going to feel really good, and then it's going to shake the screen. It's going to show you some sparkly lights and make a good sound. You're going to be like, oh man, this is a really good game.
Okay. All right, fine. I'm going to hurl this phone into the sea. I'm going back to a flip phone.
Take your artificial goals and go to hell, Clash Royale. We will see you all next week. Thanks for listening, everybody.